Okay, so welcome to the final episode. I don't know if I really need to tell you the objective today because it is the last one, but the objective is the cube, to finish solving it. And this is where we're at now, by the way, just to be clear there. We have done the first two layers, and all that is dusted, so all we have to worry about is just this last part here. And that's not too much. It is the most algorithms in the solve. There are 4 different algorithms you need to learn. But they're pretty simple and not too complicated, and the applications are very simple as well. So we're just going to start by jumping right into it. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to make the yellow cross, which is just, there are 2 different algorithms that can come up, and there are 3 cases, and I'll explain how to do all 3 of them. So this is the first case. We're not paying attention to the corners at all, just ignore them entirely. They can all be correct, they can be none of them correct, it's completely irrelevant, and we don't have to worry about that for now. So for the time being, all we're going to focus on is these edges. So you can see we have 2 up, this top one and this one to the left. And what we're going to do is we're going to hold it exactly like this, where the yellow piece is here away from us and one is to our left. And we're going to do the first algorithm. So that is F, U, R, U prime, R prime, F prime. That's the first of the 2 edge algorithms for edge placement for the cross. And as you can see, that just creates the entire cross. So here is the second case, which can also occur, where it's just one line straight across. This one is pretty simple. It's quite similar to the last one. It's a slightly different algorithm. You have to swap it around a couple moves, but in essence it's the same process. So you're going to hold it one to the left and one to the right, and hold that, and just do the algorithm, which is the second one, which is F, R, U, R prime, U prime, F prime. And as you can see, once again we create the full cross. And here's the last one. It's the most complicated of the 3 cases. It's still not that bad. As you can see, we only have a dot. We don't have any edges correct right now. So what we're going to do for that is we're just going to go ahead and use either 2 algorithms. It doesn't matter which one you use. I guess I'll do the second one. So F, R, U, R prime, U prime, F prime. And as you can see, that's given us 2 edges correct. And from there, we can go ahead and do an algorithm and finish it off. So this is the first one again, which we can see here. So hold one away from us and one to our left, and do F, U, R, U prime, R prime, F prime. And there you go. That is the entire cross completed. Okay, now I need to place all the pieces in the cross. And this is a very simple process as well. It only requires 1 algorithm, which is actually called the soon algorithm. It has a name because it's used in more advanced solving. Basically what we're going to do is we want to find a case where we have 2 edges aligning with their correct colors. So as you can see here, in this case we have none, so none of these colors align. Just going to rotate it. Now we have 1, that's it. And here we have 2. We have the blue and the red. They both align, which is great. This is exactly what you want to see. You want to have 2 edges, ideally adjacent to one another, but if they're not, that's a different case, which I'll show in a minute here as well. And so when you do find that, what you're going to do is you're going to hold the cube with one of those edges facing away from you, and one of those edges facing to the right. So as you can see, one of the edges is here and one is here, so we're going to hold away from me and to the right, and we're going to hold the cube, and we're going to do the soon algorithm, which is should be on screen now. It's R, U, R prime, U, R, U2, which means 2 U moves, R prime. U2 is just quite obvious. It's just move the face U twice instead of once. From here we can just do 1 more U move, which is not part of the soon algorithm, but is actually very important to finish aligning the cross. As you can see, we have all the pieces of the cross aligned with their correct colors as well. Here's the other case. As I mentioned, there's a slightly different one. where you don't have the two adjacent to each other, there will always be two edges correct. That is absolutely guaranteed. But in this case, they're not adjacent, so you can see one is here, it's on the green side, and one is here on the blue side. They're opposite to one another, it's this one and this one, which makes our lives a little bit more complicated, but not much at all. So what we're going to do is we're going to hold one towards us and one away from us. We're once again going to do the soon algorithm. So R, U, R prime, U, R, U2, R prime. As you can see, what that'll do for us is it will actually put two edges correct adjacent to each other. So now we have green and orange are now correct. And with that in mind, we can just do the same step as we did before. So hold one away from us and one to the right, and we're going to do the same move soon. And that's R, U, R prime, U, R, U2, R prime. And then once again, one more U move, we'll finish it off. And there you go, we have the entire cross done with all the edges aligning. And that's exactly what we want to see. So that's perfect. So the last thing we need to do is we need to do the corners on this cube. We need to place these corners correctly, and then we need to orient them correctly. So to place them, there's one simple algorithm to use. We're just going to start using that. So the first thing to check for is, do we have any corners that are in the right place? They don't need to be oriented correctly. They can be oriented wrong if we want, but are they in the correct place? Let's just check all of them. So this is orange, green, and yellow. It's between red, blue, and yellow. Obviously not correct. Yellow, red, green. Orange, blue, yellow. Not correct. Yellow, blue, red. I'm not going to go through all of them because it would just take a lot of time, but clearly this isn't correct, and neither is this one. So if none of them are correct, we're just going to use the algorithm anywhere as long as white's on the bottom. And we're going to do the algorithm, which is U, R, U prime, L prime. So L prime, remember, means going up as well. U, R prime, so putting that back down. U prime, L. And that is the only algorithm we need for this entire step. And now when you check it, if there wasn't one that was correct, now there is guaranteed to be at least one. So we can check the pieces. This one is not correct. This one, almost but not quite. Red and orange isn't the same. This one is not correct. But this one is correct. It's yellow, green, and red between the yellow, the green, and the red. And you can see here, this is a good demonstration. This isn't in the right orientation. This is meant to be rotated that way once, so that it would actually be oriented upwards with the yellow facing up. But that's actually not important yet, so we're going to ignore that for now. So now that we have a correct piece, you're often here just at the start in the initial cross solve, you might get a correct corner. We're going to hold this piece in the top right of the cube, once again yellow on the bottom. And so we're going to keep this on the right side of the cube, the correct piece. So this piece is on the right side, and we're going to do the algorithm again. So we're going to do U, R, U prime, L prime, U, R prime, U prime, L. And as you can see, we've actually gotten quite lucky. Sometimes we need to do that algorithm twice. You need to check all the pieces and see if they're in the right places. In this case, they are. And remember, we're only looking at the position of them, not the orientation. So this piece is in the right place. It's not oriented correctly, but it's in the right place. That's what matters. Same with this piece. And this piece is also in the correct place, and also actually oriented correctly as well, which is just kind of convenient for us, but not necessary. The way to get to this point is pretty similar every time. You need to find one piece that's correct, and then keep that on top right, and do the algorithm. It basically cycles the three pieces around, and eventually they will all three be correct within doing it twice. Just keep on doing it, and hopefully the three pieces will be in their correct positions at some point. Once that's done, now we're on to the very last step, and this is a very simple step. We're actually going to be using the first algorithm we learned for the corners of the white side here, which was R, U, R prime, U prime, and we're going to be using that to finish the entire cube. So in the entire solve, for the first time, we're going to be flipping the cube over. We're going to be putting yellow on the bottom, which is a little unusual, but is actually very important for this step. So when yellow's on the bottom, we're now going to go ahead and pick any corner that isn't oriented correctly. It doesn't matter which one you do. I like to pick one on a side so that I can cycle around to the rest of them later, which we will need to do. But we're just going to pick any corner that's not oriented correctly, so I wouldn't pick this one because this is already in place and is correct, and there's no point in reorienting it because that would just waste time. But this one does, so we're going to keep that in the bottom right, and we're going to start doing the same algorithm that we used at the beginning. And we're going to be stopping once I see this go into the correct place. So R, U, R prime, U prime, on the right place. R, U, R prime, U prime. There you go, that's correct. And so we're going to, now that that's correct, we can just move on to the next piece. So we're going to just rotate this over, just move this bottom face to this one. And then with this one here, you can continue doing the R, U, R prime, U primes. R, U, R prime, U prime, R, U, R prime, U prime. And remember the U prime at the end, because I can tell you when I first started learning to solve the cube, I had a number of solves that failed because I would forget to do a U prime, and then the ending wouldn't work right. Because when you forget that move, really everything messes up. So just don't forget that move, and check after you've done the entire algorithm. Don't check after you did the R prime. Check after the U prime. So now we have one more piece to rotate, so we're going to put that into the bottom right now. Remember, you're moving the yellow face. You're not moving the cube around. You're moving the yellow face in each of these moves. And we're going to do R, U, R prime, U prime. Nope. R, U, R prime, U prime. And you can probably see it here, but the cube is completed. And that is how you solve Rubik's Cube. Now, there are a couple of other things that I need to mention before I can really say that this course is finished. I want to explain a couple things about this final step. That was quite lucky that it just happened to work after one rotation each, or two cycles of the RU, R prime, U prime. But you can sometimes get it where it requires 4 each. So this one, for example, will require 4. So I'm going to start doing RU, R prime, U primes here. RU, R prime, U prime, RU, R prime, U prime. So that was 2, and as you can see, it's still not correct. So I need to do it another 2 times, and then it's correct. And there you go. And I also just want to show off something else, which is that sometimes you have different cases. So in this one, for example, 2 of the corners are correct already, not 3. This is approached the exact same way. We're just going to hold it on the bottom, and we're going to do the RU, R prime, U primes on any corner that's not correct, and then move on to the next one, and it'll solve the same way. And you can have all of them solved. You can even have just all 4 of these corners in the correct orientation already. That's also possible. It can be all 0, 1, or 2. It's a relatively simple last step, and that's the entire course, and that should be how to solve Rubik's Cube. And there are a lot of advanced methods that go beyond that. The way that I solve a cube is very different. I skip a lot of the steps, so I go straight to doing the second layer while I'm doing the first one. There are a lot more advanced techniques which I could teach in a later course. I really enjoy solving cubes, and I hope you've enjoyed the course, and I hope it's taught you well enough how to solve Rubik's Cube. And that's the end of the course.